Let us have our initial prayer. Master Jesus, here we are together in our fraternal study about the Medium's book. Clear our minds, our spirits, to allow us to enjoy and to profit this opportunity the best as we can. Be with us today and always. To be.
Amen.
So we need to share. My God, I forgot how to share. Oh, I found it. I found it. Here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I believe that we have.
You can put it a little bit bigger.
Bigger.
Better.
Okay. Do you want me to make it even bigger? Is it okay now?
It's the best, huh? Older people like me with a little bit difficulties on vision, so.
Thank you, Charles.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay.
I'm old like you, Charles. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. So I understand that we have stopped on the item 9.
Yes.
Start today. So let's start today from the item number 10. To those who regard matter as the sole power of nature, anything that cannot be explained by the laws of matter is extraordinary or supernatural. And for them, the extraordinary is synonymous with superstition. Thus, religion which is founded on the existence of an immaterial principle would be the fabric of superstition. They dare not to say this out loud, but they mutter it under their breath, and they think they can keep up appearances by claiming that religion is necessary for the people and for children in order to make them wise. Hence, we are faced with two choices. Either the religious principle is true or is false. If it's true, it is true for everybody. If it's false, it's no more beneficial for uneducated than for enlightened persons. We have to remember that the concept of matter at the time was one. And nowadays, with the development of the science, matter became something more comprehensive. And we can go up to the degree to say that matter is energy, is condensated energy. And at that time was not there. So we can go on and on about this scientific understanding of matter, or we can understand matter here as people that are materialistic, right? Materialism is still present until nowadays. And when he's talking here about two choices, the religious principle is true or is false, it depends who you ask, because something that I believe is true, someone may think is false, and vice versa. But from where those religious principles coming from? From where the understanding of those principles are coming from? I believe that religion and science, they were together up to a certain point. And there are some authors that back me up on that. And then one day, religion, philosophy, and science, they went in the different directions. But once upon a time, they were all together. Even if you consider the religious side of things, there are principles that you can tie to science, to experiences, or at least to expectations. So I'm not going into depth into about that because it's too much philosophical, but I think that in the future, things will start to get together again. I think that there are cycles, and when we see nowadays that science is considering things that not too long ago were considered as religious, so that make me think that perhaps in the future, when we understand better the science or the principles behind the science, then we'll see religion or other philosophies with a different perspective. Those who attack Spiritism by calling it extraordinary usually find support in the materialist principle, and thus in denying every effect of an extra-material origin, they necessarily deny the existence of the soul. I also believe here that is depending who you ask, depending on what kind of experiences you have been exposed. Things that we advocate sometimes is not just because we think, it's because of the experiences we had. So I think we always need to have a step back and not discredit anything that we do not understand ourselves. Because discredit things we do not understand, we may be heading our head into something we don't know. And we could be creating our own truth. That doesn't mean that is the right one. However, probe the depths of their thought and scrutinize the meanings of their words, and you will almost always find this principle, which, even if not categorically formulated, nonetheless shines through under the guise of the rational philosophical pretense behind which they hide it. Therefore, by rejecting an extraordinary everything that results from the existence of the soul, they are at least being self-consistent. Can science today prove the existence of the soul? Can science deny the existence of the soul? Do we have a clear explanation from science that can tell us the origin of our thoughts, of what we think, our feelings? Can we? I don't know. I haven't seen yet a definition cast in stone that would prove that there isn't a soul. If there isn't a soul, soul is the spirit when incarnated, so we cannot prove either that there is no existence of the spirits or spiritual life. So I see the same dilemma today that we had 200 years ago, because a lot of people say things that they cannot prove. Science, as far as I can see, cannot prove that. And if we extend that line of thoughts for things that science cannot explain, almost death experience, I forgot how they say, but when someone basically is considered dead and then returns a bit later telling his or her experiences. I forgot the expression they use.
Caldas experience?
Yes, near-death experience. Thanks, Charles. You know, science cannot explain that, can they? There are people with theories explaining that it's a chemical reaction, blah, 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 but can they prove that? No, I don't think so. Since they do not admit the cause, they cannot admit the effect. Hence, the prejudice that keeps them from judging Spiritism soundly, because they start from the principle of denying everything that's not material. Then I'm having a thought here. Is everything around us just material? Or the sensors we have in our physical body only allow us to perceive material things around us. If we consider that we have sensors in our physical body that only allow us to perceive material things, then I'm led to believe that the people that we call mediums, they have different kind of sensors. They are able to sense things in a different way. Likewise, animals, dogs, cats, horses, you name it, they have different type of perceptions. They perceive different sounds. They perceive different colors than we do. So I think it's very unfair to consider that only what we see, what we feel, what we can perceive is the real truth. Must be the champions of all dreamers, of adepts of all sort of utopias and eccentric theories. One would have to know very little about Spiritism to think so. One thing that came to my mind here now is that a lot of people speak about Spiritism without knowing its depth. Even people that join Spiritism in like a year or so, they believe they know everything, and it is impossible to know the Spiritism if you have only 1 year or 2 years of Spiritism. You can have the principles, yes, but I don't think we have enough time in a lifetime to be able to study the whole Spiritism, not in depth as it's supposed to. However, this does not concern our adversaries, since the requirements that they must understand what they are talking about is the little interest to them. According to them, the extraordinary is absurd. Spiritism is based upon extraordinary facts. Therefore, Spiritism is absurd. It's absurd. For them, this is a sentence that cannot be appealed. They believe they are presenting an incontestable argument when, after erudite research into the convulsionaries of Saint-Médard, the Camisards of Cévennes, or the nuns of Loudun, they arrive at the discovery of fraudulent evidence that no one can contest. But Charles, do you know a little bit about those events?
Saint-Médard, Cavidar de Cévennes?
Mm-hmm.
Those, yes. So it is. There were cases. Kardec is describing them in the Spiritist magazine, and it is phenomena that occurred before Spiritism, and it's a kind of collective subjugation, and people who say it got kind of obsessed collectively in a short period. And the nuns of Loudun, I don't remember well, but it should be, or maybe having, how to say, precognition or things like that, some collective mediumistic phenomenon.
Okay. Thank you. I think I heard about the nuns of Loudun with the cases of the place not far from Switzerland. I forgot the name. That they have massive... Morzine, yes.
It's different again. So Morzine, Kardec went there in 1862 and saw it personally. So when he wrote the Mediums book, that one did not was not happening yet. But these which are told here are the older, happened before. I would just maybe take the opportunity to make a comment. Here the translator is putting the extraordinary in several occasions in this paragraph and the previous one. But the French name is not extraordinaire, it is merveilleux. So there is a nuance, because something which is extraordinary is something which is not common, which is not ordinary. But marvelous, merveilleux, I don't know if it's in English marvelous, is already having a connotation of something that is not real, that can be a dream or an illusion or whatsoever. So the translation of the word is not 100% here.
But it is interesting how people perceive things they don't understand as something that's not real, isn't it?
Yeah. Something extraordinary can be real, and may not be absurd. A solar eclipse is extraordinary, but it's real, you know. But what they call marvelous, that is then it can be something from the imagination.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Munir.
Hi, Guilherme. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to add that the first case the convulsionaries of Saint-Médard, it's in the Spiritist journal, Perispirit, 1859. And the case was in 1727, as Charles mentioned before, Kardec. And the other cases can be found also in the Revue Spirit. So for those interested, they can always use Kardecpedia, type, Saint-Médard or 7 or Loudon, and then they will find the cases there.
Interesting, isn't it? But I remember that when I was studying the Morzine case 2 years back, I managed to find even some medical journal from some Lyon institutions, because they sent some doctors to the area to evaluate what was happening. So everybody has a different perception, a different theory about what's going on, right? And the important thing is not to discredit one or another, but to try to understand all information that may come about that subject. In our case, we had our vision, the Spiritist vision, but we also had other visions about what has happened at the time. But are stories such as these the gospel of Spiritism? Have Spiritism supporters ever denied that charlatanism has exploited certain incidents to its own advantage? That imagination has engendered that fanatism has exaggerated many of them. But Spiritism is no more responsible for extravagances that may be committed on its name than is true science for the abuses of ignorance, or through religion for the excess of fanatism. Many critics only judge Spiritism in the light of fairy tales and popular legends, which are only its fictitious forms. That is the same as judging history in the light of historical romances or tragedies. And I'm thinking here, can we see that we hadn't changed of the present if we compare what has happened in the past? Do you believe that people will look to us, Spiritists, and they will have a different perception today? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I was going to say no, because we're all humans, all like very fallible, so we still, 10:50. Sorry. Yeah, so I think they look at us like before, because we're still fallible, and still have lots of things wrong in spirit. I mean, people that say that the Spiritism does not behave as per Allan Kardec teachings.
Mhm. When I saw the other day that we have more and more doctors presenting, doing lectures of things that probably is not very well accepted by their peers. And 200 years ago was the same. We have scientists presenting what they have found, and they have been discredited. So I don't see a true difference from the past to the present. I had a phase in my journey that I thought that, yes, through science, we'll be able to modify things. I don't see that anymore. I see that through the examples of what we do, we may be perceived in a different way by the people around us. Because there's a lot of clever people, doctors, scientists, everything, people presenting what they found. But even like that, the masses, they deny that. So I don't see a change from 200 years ago up to today. According to the most elementary logic, in order to discuss a matter, it is necessary to be thoroughly familiar with it, since critics' opinions are only worth anything when they speak with causal knowledge. Spiritism, sometimes they are very happy to pronounce that, to say that, right? But in reality, we have a hard time to really accept this sentence, because we had several examples where we preach that we have, in theory, we have only the right to speak if we have enough information about the subject, but we all like to express our opinions without perform tests, without going to the lab, without having any experience. Prime example is that virtual meetings we do. A lot of people raise their voice saying it's not correct, safe, or anything else, or even possible, without even trying. And there are other things too, you know. So it's nice to preach that, but it would be better if we really perform what we preach. Only in this way can their opinion, even when erroneous, be taken seriously. But what weight can it carry and when it is applied to an unfamiliar matter? True critics must provide evidence, not just erudition, but from a profound knowledge of the object under consideration and with absolute impartiality of judgment. Otherwise, any minstrel could assume the right to judge Rossini, and any naturalist could critique Rafael. I like this sentence very much. I am a strong advocate that everything we see on the Medium's book or anywhere, we should also find support through the practices. And perhaps through the practice, we'll find the support we need to better understand, or even to support what we believe is true. Just studying it, you will not have it. You will not get that level of certitude that things are like that. But study always, and having the practice to give you the support you need to advocate about something. Therefore, Spiritism does not accept all facts that may be regarded as extraordinary or supernatural. Far from it. Instead, it demonstrates the impossibility of a great number of them and the foolishness of some of the beliefs that comprise superstition per se. It is true that amongst the spirit phenomena that Spiritism accepts, there are some that disbelievers regard as unequivocally extraordinary in nature. In other words, they represent superstition. We have, so when I was reading that here, something that came to my mind is something that I consider extraordinary, are the experiences a certain number of spiritists they had about ectoplasm, spiritual surgeries, how things happen, how a spirit can manifestate himself or herself mimicking a physical body, So this is something that is extraordinary and can be explained by the Spiritism. But this is extraordinary. I think it's extraordinary. And eventually, things like that will become public or more public, because there's a lot of information nowadays, but people don't have access to it, or they don't believe it's true, whatever. As they wish. However, they should at least limit the discussion to these, because they have nothing to say regarding the others. They will be preaching to the already converted. By criticizing what Spiritism itself refutes, they demonstrate their ignorance about the subject and they miss the mark. But how far can Spiritism belief reach? You will ask. Read and observe, and you will understand. Here we go. Read and observe. Acquiring any science demands time and study. A lot of people consider themselves a spiritist. But I would say that a true spiritist, he or she will give a certain time, or will allow a parcel of his time to study, truly study the Spiritism. Without doing it, you won't be able to get the information that's there. And then I'm talking about studying, is really studying something. It's not reading. There's a lot of people that believe that reading is equivalent to study, and it's not. If you want to go in depth about something under Spiritism, that means you start on the medium's book and you need to find other sources of information to back you up in that topic. It's not easy. Can be done. With the advance of technology, with internet nowadays, it's much easier, but can be done. And the Spiritism, which addresses the most serious questions of philosophy in every sector of social order, and which encompass both the physical and moral individual at the same time, is a complete science and philosophy in itself, and it cannot be assimilated in only a few hours, which is true of any other science. Me in particular, I don't pretend to know everything, and I dedicated one direction of study, because as I said earlier here today, it is impossible to study everything in the Spiritism in a single life. If anybody says, I know the Spiritism, I know a bit of Spiritism, because to know everything, I truly believe a lifetime is not sufficient. It would be very childish to see the whole Spiritism in a turning table, just as it would be to see the whole physics in few children's toy. For whoever does not want to remain on the surface months and years rather than hours will have to be spent in order to probe all its mysteries. In light of this, decide for yourself the degree of understanding and the value of the opinions of those who assume for themselves the right to judge simply because they have seen one or two experiments by way of entertainment or as pastime. we need to understand, or I need to define how deep you want to go in our research of a subject. If we are happy reading a text and we are happy with that, with what we could understand from that text, is one thing. If you want to go in depth to truly understand the phenomena, the mechanism, how things work, that takes a lot longer than just reading a page. And one thing that happens very often is that I'm happy reading one book, and from that reading, I already start to establish my theories or my own truths. No doubt, they will state that they do not have the time needed for such a study. And this is happening more often than we think. A lot of people simply deny the possibility or dedicate sufficient time to study a subject or to study the Spiritism. I don't have time, and when I say that, something that comes to my mind is one thing that I had in the past, someone that told us that did not need to study anymore because the benefactors knew more. The benefactors knew everything, so the person did not need to study anything. So you can find different people with different objectives as we move along. As they wish, nothing so oblige them. Well, I don't know how many people we have here, but we have a fair bit. And we could be, well, so many cameras closed, so we can't be paying attention or we can't doing anything else. But we could be doing something different right now, right? And we chose to be here. So I could use my time to do something, as every one of you. And we chose to be here at least listening. So it's our freedom that we are exerting. However, if you do not have time to learn about a matter, you cannot talk about it, let alone make judgments about it, unless you want to be accused of being irresponsible. The more elevated position you occupy in a science, the less excusable you will be if thoughtlessly, oh, that's a nice word, try to address a subject with which you are unfamiliar. Something that's very common to see as well is someone that reads Spiritism and any other philosophy, put everything in a pot, shake a bit, and take some conclusions about what is right. And this can be risky. Hi, Munir.
Hi, Guilherme. Yes, I've witnessed a case like that, very prestigious scientist. She was basically on TV during COVID, and she wrote an article with another guy. She was part of a group that, denies a very materialistic, denies anything that is spiritual. They wrote an article, they even published in a magazine in the UK, basically criticizing homeopathy and spiritism. And the arguments were so weak, so basically they were going back to facts in the past as arguments to support their. And to me, that was basically, a contradiction, because they were so good in what they did, but they extrapolated that. They went too far to give opinion about something they knew nothing about. They didn't, bother to learn, to, make their opinion based on something. Exactly what Kardec said here. They are free to do whatever they want, but to limit themselves to comment about things they know well, and not think that because they are very good in one area, their opinion about the rest, is more important and realistic than the opinion of other people. And we see that a lot today. Oh, my opinion. Well, but your opinion is based on what? Have you read that? Have you studied that? No, I haven't, but I think, well, what you think, keep it to yourself, you know, instead of trying to impose on others your view. So we should be humble and say, from my perception, from the little I know from, you know, I think that, so you're giving ideas to, you know, people and they can argue that. But when you have a prestigious position and you write an article and you put that as the, you know, final word about something you know nothing about, it's really serious.
Yeah. And something that I like to remind us from time to time is that we are responsible for anything we say and do, for the examples we give. And if I'm conducting a group of people into a whole, I'm responsible for the outcome of that whole, you know. And can we say that holistic science today is a Mickey Mouse thing? Can we say that homeopathy? Can we say that acupuncture? Can we say that things that we do not understand or we do not mentor enough? The subject is not real, you know. And homeopathy, I know a little bit. Acupuncture, a bit. But can I speak about that? No, probably not. I can give my own opinion, but I cannot say for sure it's like that, you know. But in another hand, if I have used and I have the results, it's a bit different, you know. Oh, does not work. Does not work. Why? Have you studied in depth? Why it did not work with you and work with somebody else? You know, there's always something you can do to back up your own experience, you know. And speaking about meetings, 3 years ago-ish, somebody came to me, well, the meetings do not work for me, and because of this. And then when we start to make questions like, is the person used to drink alcohol? Is the person having a serious life? When I mean serious, is according to our moral precepts of the 21st century, is the person doing okay? No, you know, and well, you know, no. You need to bring all those factors into the equation to determine exactly if you're not failing because you're not following some protocols to assure that something will be successful, you know. So it is difficult. It's very difficult. And we are responsible for what we say, to whom we push into the hole, right? You know, and oh no, I did not know. If you don't know, keep your mouth shut. Don't say something you do not know. You may say that I think my personal point of view, this is different. But if you say no, this is not true, this is wrong, or that is something else. You can mislead a person or a group of people to an outcome that may not be that positive, and that is your responsibility.
Especially when you use your position, you know, to make your argument stronger. Not the how much you know, but you are famous on this area, so you know you think that you can have strong arguments in any area. You know, this is the point. You see.
Yeah. Very risky.
Yeah.
Hi, Camila.
No, I would say I one way that I think to make a link with that is right. When we don't know something, usually we think that we know everything, right? Because we don't know exactly what we don't know. Like when I was a teenager, like almost a kid, I decided that I would take a job. I saw in the news, in the journal, because that time I was old times. I don't told for my family anything, and I put a closet that I think that was the right closet to work in an office, and I go there. People was shocked because I was a kid. Okay, but what do you know to do? Everything. I do everything. because I have no idea what is required to do, right? So in my mind, I could do, has nothing that I could not do, right? I think with any topic is more or less in this way, right? In the professional field, when we are young, in the professional, we think that we learn everything, and in the life, right? So not different in the spiritism.
It is interesting that sometimes we are compelled to speak about something that we do not know, or we are in situations that we feel like I cannot demonstrate that I do not know. I need to demonstrate that I know. And we end up doing choices that are not very positive. As we talked about mediumship here, mediumship, you need to try, you need to test on yourself, you need to have the minimum practical experience. So if you don't, you're increasing the risks. If you don't, you may put yourself or your group into a situation that you cannot do anything about it later. You know, a lot of things that I do, I experience on myself, or I had the opportunity to experience in a group. When I don't, I'm very careful to go in a direction that I haven't done anything, because you don't know. You may have read 10 different books about the subject, but you don't have the practice. The practice is paramount to ascertain the security of the group on your own. You need to be a bit cautious in that direction. Is that hi, Usoli?
Everybody, I wasn't here. Why I couldn't be in the study last week. But I think this what you say, and also Camilo said, is very, very true. First, never try alone. We don't have, to me, also I study Medium's book. I have been studying Medium's book many times. It's in Brazil, here, in Swedish, here in wonderful, fantastic, I say in English, wonderful study. But I can't say that I am, I come out. I can't, because every time is coming a new nuance. You know, I don't know word in English. Swedish is nuance, new color, new things. And I think a practice we need. I need, and I think I will practice till I have 90 years old here with you. But never alone, and because alone I mean call the spirits come. If people have a very good knowledge and very confidence by saying himself, okay, I do everything. I think everything is possible. Everything is forbidden. Yes. So my way to see that is with deep respect, and I think I need more and more study and knowledge. So that is my opinion about mediumship.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Let's summarize our instance in the following propositions. 1. All spirit phenomena have as their principle the existence of the soul, its survival upon the death of the body, and its ability to manifest itself. If we face someone that does not believe in the soul, or the possibility that the soul can exist after the death of the physical body, very unlikely that person will be able to absorb the mediumistic teachings, because this is basic. If you don't believe that, or if you do not consider this as a possibility, very unlikely you'll be able to absorb this kind of information. If you consider as a possibility, that's good enough to allow us to present what we see, what we think, our practices. But if the person does not believe at all, or do not want to believe, we'll see everything as delusional. We'll see everything as a variation of something that does not exist. Since they result from a law of nature, these phenomena have nothing extraordinary or supernatural about them, at least in the common meaning of these words. I was trying to think about something that I could consider extraordinary, as I mentioned earlier today, that is the use of ectoplasm or things like that. But everything I had the opportunity to experience on the Spiritism, there is an answer behind, telling me that's not supernatural, telling me that it's a science that I may don't mentor, I may don't master, I may don't know, but that is there. I may don't know enough about the subject, but there are people that do. And then if we do a little bit of effort, we can find people that can explain to us. For example, I saw, it was yesterday, the Frutuoso is coming to do a lecture in French about spiritual medicine or something. One of those lectures he does have a practice. He is one of the few that have been exposed to the phenomena in loco. I may have read about it, but I never saw myself, never been there. So if you do face something that you don't know, or you would like, you need to seek people that have had the experience, like him, you know. So there are people that can come in our support if you need. Many events are regarded as supernatural because their cause is unknown. And having determined their true cause, Spiritism is relegated then back to the domain of natural phenomena. Yeah. Even things that we consider supernatural, when we study a bit in depth, we see there's nothing supernatural at all. There's an explanation. But sometimes we did not give enough time to allow us to understand or to seek details for that. Fourth, among the incidents called supernatural, Spiritism shows many of them to be impossible in the first place, and therefore places them among superstitious beliefs. 5. Although Spiritism recognizes the basis of truth for many popular beliefs, it absolutely does not accept all the fantastic stories created by the imagination. One thing that I was very attracted by the Spiritism is that it does give us the incentive to dig the phenomena, to try to find a reasonable explanation to what we do not understand. And the Spiritism also brings us answers. We may do not know, but if we do a little bit of effort, we'll be able to find information about it and likely to find the answer of what we are trying to find. To judge Spiritism, 6. To judge Spiritism by facts that it itself does not accept is to show proof of ignorance and complete disregard for the correct opinion. The explanation of the phenomena accepted by Spiritism, along with their causes and moral consequences, comprise an entire science and philosophy in and of themselves, and they require serious, persevering, and in-depth study. Through all the Kardec's books, you will see a lot of incentive to study. Without studying the Spiritism, very unlikely we'll be able to move on with a proper support. You have an idea, or we'll be relying on others to give us the support we need, but we all have means to study by ourselves nowadays. Spiritism can only regard as serious critics those who have seen and studied the whole matter. When he's talking about he have seen, means had the practice, the physical experience, and studied the whole matter. Who have delved into it with the patience and perseverance of a conscious observer, who have as much understanding of the subject as most enlightened adherent, who have not therefore acquired their understanding via literacy science fiction, who will not attempt to oppose any fact with which they are unfamiliar, or any argument upon which they have not meditated or have refuted only by denying it, but who use other arguments that are more peremptory. Finally, those who can point to a more logical cause behind the established facts. Such critics have yet to appear. Even in our studies, I don't mean our study in particular, general studies that we did over the years, we always have someone trying to say that, no, I don't agree because of this, because of that. That's very human, because sometimes we want to believe in something that goes with what we're expecting. But when we start to discuss based on facts, based on experiences, based on more information, sometimes the person is kind of, oh, I haven't thought about that. Yes, there's something more I need to study. And why I'm giving the example, like, because we all have something else to learn. If you hear anyone saying that I know all about this subject, it's a bad start already, because nobody knows everything. I may know part of it because of the experiences I had, because of the branch of the study I had decided to follow. But nobody knows everything. What time is that? 4 minutes, okay. 15. We previously made reference to the word miracle, and a brief observation concerning that subject would not be out of place in a chapter dealing with the extraordinary. In its primitive acceptation and according to etymology, the word miracle means something extraordinary, something wonderful to behold. But this word, like so many others, has strayed far from its original meaning and nowadays referred to, according to academia, an act of divine power that is contrary to the common laws of nature. Such is actually its usual acceptation, and only by comparison or metaphor does it apply to common things that surprise us and whose cause is unknown to us. We have absolutely no intention of examining whether or not, under certain circumstances, God might deem it useful to derogate from the laws that have been divinely established. I'll speak about something here. I have a hard time to see God variating the law because he changed his mind at a particular moment because of a particular reason. Our universe is perfect. If we, for example, see the way the planets are aligned, the way the gravity is perfect in our planet, a little bit less or a little bit more, you wouldn't be here. The way we have all these stars moving is perfect. Everything's perfect. So I have a hard time to see him changing things because he treats us all equally. Why change something for Munir and not for Jackie? Is Munir special? Jackie is not. No. I believe that we still a long way to go to understand all the factors, all the possibilities around the nature, around the science. And then eventually something that we are not used to or we don't understand yet happens, and then we call that miracle. But I don't believe the laws are flexible. I think the laws that he created are perfect. And if the laws are flexible, we're going to have stars crashing here and there, you know. But that's me saying, okay? Our objective is solely to show that the extraordinary as the spirit phenomena may be, they do not in any way derogate from those laws, nor is there any miraculous, much less extraordinary or supernatural character about them. I'm going to be stopping here. Save. Okay, so let me stop sharing. Stop sharing, okay. So I don't see Rafael, I don't see Pablo. Is anyone from the group of prayer that will guide us through our vibration today? Could hear a fly. Okay, so we're going to do our final prayer then. Master Jesus, thanks for your opportunity of being here, trying to observe the best we can the knowledge given to us from our brother Caldas. In this particular moment, I would like to take the opportunity to ask you your love, your light, toward every single heart that is in need in our planet. That your peace could reach every area of conflict where people incarnated and discarnated are suffering today. That your love could bring us peace and harmony that we need so much. That your workers, they are in those areas, could feel their strength reinforced to the activities they are doing already. Be with us today and always. So be it. So, see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.